All right, here we are, lesson 19, the nature of reading. We're going to spend a little bit of time looking at the fundamentals of teaching reading. Your readings for this week are all focused on this as well. So hopefully sort of getting hit with the information from the readings from me and then what we'll talk about and collaborate will hopefully really help you internalize these fundamentals of teaching. Okay, so successful reading program. So according to National Institute for Literacy, or NIFL, I like that acronym, it has been discovered that to successfully teach children to read, there must be 5 areas of reading instruction included in any pedagogical or instructional strategy choice. So we have to be thinking about phonemic awareness, phonics, vocab, fluency, and text comprehension. So if you've heard these terms floating around and you're like, whoa, what do these actually mean? Today is your day to find out what these actually mean. I know you've been waiting for this. Okay, so in Collaborate, what we're going to do is, again, we're going to discuss where and how you are seeing these 5 areas of reading instruction being included in pedagogical instructional strategy choice in either, again, ELA or other subjects. So again, starting to think about literacy, cross-curricular, as well as what are you seeing particularly, what are your teachers doing out there around these 5 areas? And you will be seeing examples because these again it's the fundamental. So be ready to talk in depth. So where and how, and even talking about, how are the kids reacting? Are they actually understanding these fundamentals, or are they still missing these fundamentals? Those kind of things. So be ready to have some good conversation around this and collaborate. Okay. The moment you're waiting for, the definitions of these particular terms. Okay, so here we go. Phonemic awareness is all about the sound. And the reason why I have this picture here of this young lady with her eyes closed is because phonemic awareness is all about sound. It's eyes closed awareness. You can do this in the dark. You have phonemic awareness, you don't need to see anything. It's all sound. You can close your eyes and still be aware of phonemic awareness. So it is all of the sounds. It's being aware of all of the sounds that make up the words. So k, a, t. You are aware that cat is made up of 3 phonemes, k, a, t, and that's phonemic awareness. It's hard for us as proficient readers to go, well, yeah, can't everybody do that? No, not everybody can do that. And so that's why phonemic awareness is such a fundamental thing, because it's how we build words. We put these sounds together to build words. So if you don't know how to put the sounds together, or you don't even know what the sounds are, that's an issue in trying to learn how to read. Okay, so I'm going to just read you the definition from Reading Rockets. Reading Rockets is one of you've probably seen it a few times in your reading list. It's one of my favorite literacy websites. You could basically almost find any topic that you can think of around literacy in Reading Rockets. So phonemic awareness is the ability to notice, think about, and work with the individual sounds in spoken words. An example of how beginning readers show us they have phonemic awareness is by combining or blending the separate sounds of a word to say the word. Okay, that's phonemic awareness here. That's the definition. Let's look now at specifics of phonemic awareness. So phoneme isolation is basically when children can actually recognize the individual sounds in a word. So they can isolate those particular sounds. Phoneme identity is when children can recognize the same sounds in different words. So they know that the k sound is in several different words. Okay, phoneme categorization is children recognize the word in a set of 3 or 4 words that has an odd sound. So say you have cow, bow, moo, and sow. Cow, bow, moo, sow. They know that moo is the one that doesn't fit the category. Phoneme blending is when children listen to a sequence of separately spoken phonemes and then combine the phonemes to form a word. Then they can write and read the word. So they basically go, okay, they blend it together. They go cat, cat, so that they blend the sounds together to form a word. Phoneme segmentation then is when they can break a word into separate sounds. So they either say each sound or they tap them out, and then ultimately we want them to be able to write it in there. But that's segment. So they segment it out. So they go cat is made up of cat. Phoneme deletion is when they recognize the word that remains when a phoneme is removed. So if you say desk, desks, and I'm going to delete the ending s, they go, oh, it's desk then. They can delete it. And then phoneme addition is that they make a new word by adding a phoneme to an existing word. So if you said add an S sound to desks, to desk, they would say desks. So they add a phoneme on. And phoneme substitution is when they substitute one phoneme for another to make a new word. So caught, if they change the middle letter, would become cat. Okay, so when you are out there working with your teachers, these are terms that you, again, if they say we're going to do blending today, you need to know that you're going to be blending sounds together. You're going to be blending them together to make words. Or if you're going to be substituting, that you're going to be changing something out and changing it from caught to cat. You're changing the middle letter in there. Okay, so that's phonemic awareness. So that's the first major fundamental of reading, teaching reading. This is a direct quote from Reading Rockets. Phonemic awareness and phonics are not the same thing. Phonemic awareness is the understanding that the sounds of spoken language work together to make words. Phonics is the understanding that there is a relationship between letters and sounds through written language. Now remember, phonemes you can do in the dark. You can do with your eyes closed. Phonics you can't. Phonics is the connection between the sounds and then all of these letters that we see, right? So it's different. Children who cannot hear and work with the phonemes of spoken words will have a difficult time learning how to relate these phonemes to letters when they see them in written words. That's why it's super, super important that we catch, especially our K1s and 2s, and that we make sure that they are solid in their phonemic awareness, because if they do not understand the sounds, even the sounds, when we then start to try to connect those sounds to these arbitrary squiggles on the page, like this is an arbitrary, like P could have looked like this, right? This is just how we chose to make the letter P. A could have looked like this. You know what I mean? Like it's these arbitrary squiggles on the page and go with these sounds. So if they cannot figure out the sounds, it's tough when we then start saying, well, now connect it in a really abstract manner to these weird symbols on the page. Okay, so phonemic awareness, phonics, not the same thing. Not the same thing. Okay. We also, when we're talking about reading fundamentals, we must talk about building vocabulary. So it's important to expand their vocabulary basically through purposeful teaching. So children amass a store of words to express and interpret meanings. So we want to be building on that storage. When a child enters schools, his or her vocabulary usually reflects his or her experience, and it's our job to expand that vocabulary through authentic experiences. So things like taking them out to the playground and talking about slippery and rough and windy and hurricane and things like that. So we want to expand. We also, when a rich vocabulary is essential because the reader must understand individual words in order to understand text. So if they are missing, if they don't know what half the words in a poem mean, then they're not going to be able to understand the entire text. And it's important to bring in vocabulary both incidentally and intentionally. So you kind of are teaching vocab all the time in just how you use words and how you bring in different vocabulary. And then you'll have focused vocab time where it's like, okay, now we're going to work on not using good in a paragraph. What are some other words that we could use for good? Fantastic, amazing, that kind of a thing in there where you're actually intentionally learning new vocab. And vocabulary is enhanced both through independent reading, so again, their own reading, and word learning strategies. So particularly teaching them how to deal with words and then just letting them read, because when they read, they're coming against vocabulary all the time. And if they're interested in the reading, then they're going to be super interested in knowing what the words mean. Okay, let's talk about fluency now. Fluency is the ability to read both silently and aloud with enough speed, accuracy, and expression to understand the meaning of the text. And we want to get our students in the flow or zone of reading where they're lost in a book. I'm sure all of us have been in that zone where we've been reading a book and then we look up and it's like 2 hours have gone by because we've just been able to fluently read. We understand the text. We're not bogged down. And so that's why fluency is important, so we can get in that zone. Think about a child who is still slogging through sight words. Think about back to last lecture. If they have to sound out all of those sight words, even by the end of the paragraph, they've probably forgotten what the paragraph is actually about. So they lose interest because they're like, I've just been working so hard and I actually don't understand any of this. Think about textbooks that you read and you get to the end of the paragraph or the page and you go, wow, I actually read all that, but I don't have a clue what it means. Yeah, we've all done it. That is a part of when you're so bogged down in the actual text that your fluency can't kind of get you through it so that you can actually comprehend it. Okay, so there are 3 dimensions of reading fluency. So there's basically accuracy in word decoding. So can you actually decode the words? Automatic recognition of connected words in a text. So you start to connect words. The human brain is amazing when, you can read a sentence but not actually have read like a third of the sentence, but your brain just fills it in. And prosody. This is where reading with appropriate use of expression and phrasing. So you understand the book, you understand the text, so that you know, oh, this is a different voice. Oh, this is grandma, and it's not Little Red Riding Hood anymore. And so then you can actually connect the actual reading, the actual text, with expression and phrasing. Basically, what we've been finding is higher fluency rates equal higher levels of comprehension. Again, you're not expending so much energy just on trying to figure out what the words are, but you are able to expend your energy on comprehension, which is ultimately what we want our kids to be able to do. If you want to stop me for a minute and go and listen to this grade 2, she is a fluent reader. Just listen to how fluently she reads, and think about her comprehension level then when she reads so fluently. So go and watch her for a little bit. And finally, text comprehension. This is kind of like the aha moment of reading, because this is ultimately what we want our kids to be able to do, is actually comprehend the text that they are reading. Years ago, it actually was enough, like 100 years ago, it was enough to just be able to actually read. The actual comprehension of it wasn't the most important part. It was actually just being able to read fluently. But now we absolutely have to know what we're comprehending. And like we talked about in the beginning of this course, we have to be critical because there's so much text coming at us that we have to be able to look at it through a critical lens. Okay, so when we talk about comprehension, where does the meaning of the text actually reside? So is it actually in the text? Is it in the code within the text? Is it actually within the words in the text? Or is the comprehension in the reader's head? Ooh, kind of fun to think about. So again, words are good. Does the social context of a reader affect their comprehension? So I'll give you an example. So in Nuffle Bunny here, the main character takes Nuffle Bunny, this little guy here, to a laundromat and puts Nuffle Bunny ends up in the washing machine, and then the main character and her dad, I believe it is, leave, and they leave Nuffle Bunny in the washer. Well, that's an issue, and the little main character freaks out, and they have to go back, and Nuffle Bunny's in the washer, and blah, 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 that's all. So a teacher friend of mine read this and sort of made an assumption that kids would know what a laundromat was, because that's kind of an issue. That's kind of a main part of the story. But she was teaching in a high socioeconomic area, and the kids were like, what's a laundromat? So she's like, wow, they missed a whole part of the story because they've never been to a laundromat. They're like, why didn't the dad just go downstairs and put the laundry in the washer downstairs? Because most high socioeconomic households have washers and dryers, right? So again, it's that social context. Is the comprehension of the book dependent on the social context of the reader, how the reader is reading it? And do we have to look at the cultural context of the reader? So again, a marginalized child may totally comprehend a text differently than a child from a dominant culture. So thinking back to Nokam is My Teacher, an Indigenous child may react totally very differently than a dominant cultural child to that text. And both may have positives and negatives to that book. Okay, so that's a little bit of a whoa. Where does actual comprehension lie? Is it a mixture of all of these things? I'd say it's a little bit of a mixture of all of these things. It's the intention of the writer. It's the actual code of the book. You know how some books are just really hard to read just because of the way that the words are arranged? Like there's some academic articles I read and I'm like, I understand all of the words, but just not in this order. Right? Or is it in the reader's head? And is the comprehension in the reader's head from what they bring to the book? And this is called transactional theory. Louise Rosenblatt, she believes that meaning lies in the transaction between the reader and the text. Meaning doesn't solely rely on one or the other. So that's kind of this. It's this transaction. It's this weaving of what the reader brings and what the author has put into the text. Okay. So thus endeth the 5 big areas of the fundamentals of reading. Again, be ready to talk about where you're seeing these in our Collaborate time, because you will be seeing these out in your practicum. Awesome. Good work.